The email came at 11:42 p.m. Subject line, Role Elimination Notice. The irony didn't hit me right away. I was still staring at the sand outside our beach house, the ocean crawling up the shore like something trying to escape itself. My wife was asleep in the other room, or pretending to be. The HR manager, her sister, had written it herself. No template, no legal buffer, just 5 lines of polished arrogance. Effective immediately. Your position has been eliminated. Your severance is revoked due to refusal of duties during active employment. Best of luck. I read it twice, then once more, slowly. There was no anger, not yet. Just the awareness of something shifting under the surface, a silent collapse behind the walls. Her sister knew I was on vacation. She'd approved it. My wife had insisted I take it. "You've been working too hard," she'd said, kissing me that morning before I left. I believed her. Now I sat in the dark, phone glowing, listening to waves, and something in me whispered, she knew. I replied with one word, "Thanks." Then I closed my laptop, stared at the ceiling for a long time, and smiled without meaning to. If they wanted calm, they'd get it. If they wanted quiet, I'd give them silence sharp enough to cut through the boardroom walls. The next morning, my wife asked if I slept well. "Fine," I said. Her voice was sweet, casual. Her eyes were too careful. She poured coffee, the same way she always did, slowly, right hand trembling just slightly as she stirred. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I caught a name flash across the screen. Lauren, HR. Her sister. She turned it face down before I could read the preview. That was the moment. Not the email, not the severance. That gesture, the quiet, practiced deflection, was when I felt it. I'd been married long enough to know what guilt looks like when it's dressed as empathy. I walked to the balcony and watched the ocean. She came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. The same softness, the same warmth. Only this time, I felt the lie in her breath. "Don't worry about work," she whispered. "It's just corporate politics." Corporate politics, that's what she called it. Her sister firing me from my own department. I turned, kissed her forehead, and nodded. Inside, something clicked, like the first notch of a loaded chamber. Back home, I didn't confront her. I played my role, quiet, distracted, distant in a way that looked like exhaustion. I started checking my company messages through a backup account, deleted copies of forwarded threads, HR logs, calendar entries. The patterns started forming. My wife's sister had been sending internal memos about compliance reviews for 3 months. My name appeared only once, in a forwarded chain sent from my wife's personal email. Subject, about Daniel's PTO request. She'd written, "He's taking the first week of June. You might want to schedule the transition then." Transition. The word kept looping in my head. I went quiet, I watched, I waited. At night, my wife kept her phone under her pillow. She smiled more, touched me less. I didn't ask questions. I started saving copies instead. Screenshots, PDFs, text backups. A pattern of miscommunication between HR and my department that conveniently justified my termination. Every thread had her sister's fingerprints on it, and my wife's ghost in the margins. One night she came home late, said she was visiting her mother. I checked her car GPS from the app she forgot I had access to. She wasn't at her mother's. She was parked outside her sister's townhouse for 3 hours. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even blink. By morning, the storm inside me had gone perfectly still. The truth came wrapped in legal language, an exit clause buried in my original contract. Clause 17, C. In the event of termination due to refusal of duties, all severance shall remain payable unless willful misconduct is proven. They'd missed it, or ignored it. Either way, it was the bullet they'd loaded into their own gun. I forwarded the clause to the company's legal counsel anonymously, attached every internal email, time-stamped and unaltered. Then I waited. The next morning, the board called an emergency meeting. My wife was still asleep when my phone started buzzing. I dressed quietly, poured myself coffee, and drove to the office for the last time. When I walked into the conference room, her sister's face went pale. The company lawyer, an older man with the habit of clearing his throat before bad news, stood at the head of the table. He read the clause aloud, slowly, word by word. In the event of termination due to refusal of duties, all severance shall remain payable unless willful misconduct is proven. The room went silent. The CEO's coffee cup slipped from his hand, shattering on the table. Her sister's lips parted. No sound came out. I stood there, calm as winter. "You revoked my severance," I said, "without cause, without due process." The lawyer nodded. "That's correct, which means the company breached contract." I turned to her sister. "And you signed the termination notice?" She swallowed hard. I didn't realize." "No," I said quietly. "You realized exactly what you were doing." That night I came home to my wife sitting in the living room, phone in her lap, mascara smudged. She'd already heard. "Daniel, please," she started. "It was a mistake. I didn't know she'd actually send it." I looked at her, the woman I'd once thought was the safest place in the world. "You told her when I'd be gone," I said. Her silence was the confession. "She said it was just HR procedure," she whispered. "Procedure doesn't involve betrayal," I replied. I dropped the printed email chain on the table. Her messages, her sister's replies, the timeline. She stared at it, then at me. "You can't ruin us over this." I smiled faintly. "You already did." I didn't raise my voice, I didn't throw anything. I simply handed her a sealed envelope. Inside were the copies of every message she'd ever sent. Not to HR, to another man, the regional director, the same man who'd reviewed my position before it was eliminated. Her face went white. "I found them while backing up my files," I said softly. "You used the same password." Her breath stuttered. "Daniel, you conspired to remove me. Both of you." I turned to the door. "Now, you'll live with that." She followed me to the hallway, voice breaking. "Please, just talk to me." I looked back once. I already have. And I left her standing there, holding the evidence of her own undoing. The payout hit my account a week later. Full severance, legal settlement, non-disclosure bonus. I didn't need to sign anything. The company wanted silence. I gave it to them. I rented a small apartment overlooking the city. Bare walls. One chair, one desk. Enough space to think. Sometimes, at night, I replay her last look in my mind. Not out of longing, but to remember how calm I felt when everything ended. There's power in stillness. People mistake silence for surrender. They forget that quiet is where the sharpest blades are honed. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. She exists somewhere between memory and lesson. The world keeps moving. So do I. And when I think of that night, the email, the clause, the coffee hitting the floor, I realize something simple. They thought they were ending me. They were just proving I'd already outgrown them. I take a slow breath, close my eyes, and let the final thought settle. Some endings aren't losses. They're clarifications. And mine was perfectly clear.